Bom dia. Tudo bom? Liga o controle, tá aí? Very slow today. Everyone, thank you very much for being here with us this cold Sunday morning. But it's with a heart full of hope and joy that I welcome all of you and ask that Jesus bless everyone that is here with us and everyone that is there watching us online. Thank you very much for joining us. Before we start, we'd like to give some reminders. We have, let me just take this here just to make sure that my voice is getting there. So we have the Children and Youth Spiritist education. So for those that have interest, please reach out to us and get your children registered. We are going to start next Sunday, so March 5th. And we are doing some renovation in the little room there to make more comfortable and beautiful for our kids. So we have a very motivated team that are really happy to welcome the children and help them to understand the Spiritism and introduce them to Jesus' teachings. So just please send us a message to the contact at fsscalgary.ca and we'll get your children registered and we will happy to welcome them next Sunday here. Okay, so after that, let's start our reflections today with the harmonization text from this book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, from Francisco Cândido Xavier. So this is the same title in Portuguese, Caminho, a Verdade e a Vida. So we're going to read the text number 124, Firmness of Faith. The ones that fell upon rock are those who upon hearing the word receive it with joy. But since they have no root, they believed only for a while, and when times of trial come along, they fall away. Jesus, Luke, chapter 8, verse 13. The word rock usually symbolizes rigidity and obstacles. However, it's important to remember that Jesus sometimes used it to imply firmness. The Master once called Peter the living rock of faith. The Gospel of Luke tells us about those on rock, that is, those who receive the word with joy, but who, because they have no root, fatalistically fall away in times of trial. Many people do not understand this promise of trials. Nonetheless, trials should be looked at as essential experiences. In the home, parents can take excessive care of their children while they are very young. But too much care is inappropriate when they need to make an effort by themselves. A manager will be patiently teaching new employees, but afterwards, he or she will rightly expect them to do the work by themselves. Therefore, in this verse from Luke, we can see that in religious matters, it is not advisable for someone to become dependent on the spiritual strength of others. As long as improved individuals can rest on others, everything will probably be fine for them. But if they do not have their own firm roots, they will look outside themselves during difficulty times for the strength of others. Everything invites people to work on perfecting and enlightening themselves. Thus, let us respect firmness of faith, whatever it might be found, but let us never forget to strengthen our own faith to obtain a solid victory. Let's pray. Let's raise our thoughts and our hearts to God and to Jesus. Surrender ourselves to understand their teachings, the divine laws, and our duty as Christians, as apprentices of Jesus. Master Jesus, be with us today and help us to understand towards Peter's lessons, your apostle, so dear to your heart, helping us to understand and to reflect upon his learning, his process of learning that can be ours as well. Help us to understand your teachings, feel in our hearts, and help us to apply in our lives by developing the virtues of our hearts. Master, please help us to strengthen our faith and our courage to be the witnesses of your blessings in our lives, here and ever. Thank you, Jesus, for being with us. Thank you all the spirituality from FSS that welcome us and help us with these reflections today. Let's open our hearts and our minds to reflect upon the teachings today. So be it. Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome those that were not here before. And let's get started. So today we would like to invite you all to reflect upon Simon Peter, that was very insecure, was very rigid, but he went from insecurity to self-confidence through his journey. Let's learn from him what we can learn from him that we could apply to our own lives. So Simon Peter was one of the closest disciples of Jesus. He was always following Jesus during his mission here with us. So much so that Jesus was hosted by Simon Peter in his own house. Everyone used to go to Simon Peter's little house to talk to Jesus, to meet Jesus there. And Jesus started the first gospel at home in Peter's house. And we have actually one book that was written upon all the explanations that Jesus provided during that meetings, that we call Jesus at Home. And we have here in the library and on our books, in our book sales as well, if you were interested to read about. And we can learn so much from those meetings. And we can learn so much from each apostle that had lived with Jesus. They were not special. They were ordinary men, as we are, men and women that we are. They were fishermen. They are not educated, right? They were simple. However, they had a great virtue that we are all invited to develop in ourselves. They had goodwill, and they had faith. They had lots of imperfections, as we all have, and that's great for us because we can learn from them. We can see ourselves in them. We have a book called Good News in English, but in Portuguese is Boa Nova, that we are going to use here as well to reflect upon some teachings that Jesus provided there. It was written by Humberto de Campos, the Spirit, and Francisco Xavier psychographed this book. And it's amazing because it shows us this intimate dialogues between Jesus and the apostles, and help us to feel that we are there and learning directly from Jesus his teachings. So the source that we're going to use that will help us to navigate in this or learning more about Simon's process is the Gospel of Matthew and John. We're going to use to learn more. So we are going to see lots of texts from the Bible, from those Gospels. The Gospel according to Spiritism, the Spirit's book. We are going to also use some reflections from this study, or actually a lecture from Arthur Valadares, a great talker from Brazil. Hello. The Human and the Divine Faith. We also we're going to use this study from the Brazil Mato Grosso Federation. It's like the Leadership and Self-Transformation Model Study, and the Good News from Francisco Cândido Xavier. Hi. How are you? So cute. Okay, so let's get started with the text from the Gospel. I would like just to invite all to see those texts as a reference that we can apply to our lives. Okay, not just understanding the literal meaning, like not understand only the words, but mainly the deep meaning, the depth meaning behind the words. Okay. So let's start with this gospel, with this part of gospel where the wind and the wave obey Jesus. We can find this passage in Matthew chapter 8, 23 to 27. And we're going to use some words that are underlined to reflect upon as they are part of our lives, okay? We're going to use some imagination here. So let's go with the first paragraph. So Matthew will describe in this text that Jesus, he got in a boat with his disciples, who followed him. And suddenly a great storm arose in the sea, so that the boat was covered with waves, but he was asleep. Then his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, "Lord, save us. We are perishing." So let's imagine. Waves are very high, the storm is very strong, and this boat shaking on the waters, and Jesus was sleeping. And all the disciples were terrified because the waves were very high and covered the boat. So let's try to imagine this as in our own lives. The boat, let's imagine what we could refer as a boat. Luis loves to bring this analogy. He loves to bring a little boat and the sea, and he describes the boat as each one of ours, like which one of our lives. So my life is a little boat. Sandra's life is another little boat. Atila's life is another little boat. And the sea is this planet, this life that we are all together. We are all in the same sea, meaning the same city or the same country or the same planet. So this is the sea, huge, diversified, and sometimes dangerous, sometimes very, very challenging, right? So we are in this boat, and what we can refer as a storm. Sometimes the sea is very calm, very beautiful, very smooth, but sometimes there's storms in our lives that we feel like our lives is shaking. We feel that it's hard to be there, to be strong during this storm. So let's think that the storm is what? What we can understand as a storm here?
Things we can't control.
Right? And what does those things that we can't control? Are they nice? That makes our life pleasant?
Not really.
What is a storm?
Our trials.
Trials?
Yeah. Expiations.
Mm-hmm. Expiations. Problems, right? Problems, issues that we all have.
She doesn't have a problem yet.
We need to try to learn from her. So the storm are the problems, the challenges that we have in life. Sometimes they are so big that we feel that we are, like our lives has been covered by them. We feel that we are in this little boat and we don't have control. We lost control. Then, what we do normally?
We complain.
We complain, right? Or we cry. We cry, yes, we cry a lot. And this will help us?
Sometimes you die.
Sometimes, that's right.
It's true.
That's totally true. No problem, because we are immortal. So
Yeah.
we are gonna be here again, right?
But in the bus behind, there's no stones there.
Yes, there's no storm there.
No storm there. No storm at all. Thank you so much.
Just a little ring.
Yes, just a little rain. Yes, perfect. That's how we should feel. And then now we imagine that we are there with the two apostles. So Jesus was sleeping. And why? Why Jesus would be sleeping?
Because it's night.
Yes.
Because it was night, no, it was day. But he was sleeping. Yeah. What we can refer that Jesus was sleeping? So what appeared? Huh?
He was in peace.
He was in peace, exactly. Because normally those storms that we can see outside of us, actually they started inside of us. We have those storms inside of us. We sometimes are in this state of despair that we cannot see how is the weather outside. We cannot see things clearly. And then we think that there is no solution. We feel that we are sinking, that we are going to perish, like the apostle says here. But Jesus, do you think that he has any storm inside of him? Or he had dealt with all of them? He is in peace.
Yeah.
He is never concerned. He's never preoccupied. Because he had dealt with all that. He has the omniscience that we say omnisciencia, relative. So he knows how things will be before things really happen. So he's on control. He does never lose control. Then the disciples don't know that, so they go to him and woke up him, but he was not actually sleepy because he wasn't aware of everything, right? He knew everything. And then they say, Lord, save us. What they were searching when they went to Jesus, they were searching for a salvation,
Reassurance?
insurance, yes, insurance, but
Reassurance?
reinsurance, yes, perfect. But what means reassurance? Like we go,
Like an answer?
yes, but
Outside.
outside.
Yeah.
The storm is inside of us, but we go outside of us trying to fix what is inside of us. They go to Jesus, asking him to fix their storm. Sometimes we do that or not.
Often. Most of the time.
Often, that's right. We are always searching for things that it's outside of us. Like very rarely we stop and like, okay, let me stop here and think what is going on inside of me that I cannot see clearly what is outside of me. And for the law of affinity, we normally attract what we are feeling. I like very much this saying that Simon Peter from Brazil, it's funny because he has the same name. So his name is Simon Peter, and he says that the life, it gives you back what you give to life. So it's just the law of
Cause and effect?
cause and effect. What we give to life, you're going to receive it back. So if you give love, if we give confidence, if we give faith, what we're going to receive back? Same. But we are afraid, as the disciples were. And then Jesus said to them, "Why are you fearful, O you of little faith?" So if we just look at very quickly, we think that Jesus was not very lovely here. Like he was not very charity with, like, come on, yeah, very kind too. Come on, it's a storm. See the sea. It's so So we are afraid, and Jesus was, why you are so afraid? Why you are fearful? But what he was trying to say here, faith, guys, try to enforce or strengthen your faith. And then what he said, he rebuked the wind and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the man marveled, saying, who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Well, if we go to the question 539 in this book, Spirit's book, we will see there that Kardec will ask, and this is the chapter about the influence of the spirits in the phenomena of nature. Kardec will ask, does a single spirit take part or participate in the production of natural phenomena, such as a storm, or is it a mass of spirits who are responsible? So here Kardec will say that the phenomena of nature is not caused just by the nature. There is an action of the spirits. So Jesus knew that because he is just the governor of the planet. He built this planet. He knows all the laws, all the natural laws. So what Jesus did, he just ordered, stop, and he was obeyed. So it's not a miracle as we think. Like we sometimes see this as okay, this is something that, what is a miracle? Something that we cannot explain, that we think that it's just a magic. But there's no magic. Jesus didn't do anything that was outside of the natural laws. The cures, this order that was obeyed by the winds and waves, everything that he did was aligned with the natural laws. And we'll see more of this if you want to learn more about it. We have the questions, the chapter of the Spirit's book, chapter 2, that talks about the spirits, and also the Genesis. Kardec will explain all the miracles that Jesus performed when he was with us, that are all explained now. And we understand that this has everything to do with faith. And the Gospel according to Spiritism, this benevolent spirit will tell us about this faith, the difference between a human faith and a divine faith. And it's so important for us to understand that, because we all have this power, and this is not what Jesus told us, that you are able to do what I do, and even more. He said that to us. So here this benevolent spirit in the chapter 19 will tell us that in man, faith is inherent sentiment. So we have it in our hearts. Of this future destiny. What is our future destiny as we are immortal spirits?
To purify.
Exactly. And every one of us have this inherent sentiment. We know, deep inside we know. And it's in this conscious, he has the immense faculties implemented in his inner self. A source in latent state, which is his duty to make blossom forth and grow by the action of his will. And Luis brought up this last week when he was talking about enthusiasm, that it's basically our goodwill, our will. We put our will to act. When we have the goodwill to develop, to make efforts, to reach our goals. And Arthur Valadares will explain this a little bit better to us when he says that the human faith is like when we want to get a better job, or when we want to, huh?
When you are desperate, everyone believes in God.
Yes, exactly.
Everything is God.
But when you want to get a new job, what do you do? What do you normally do when you get, okay, I want to have a raise in my salary, I want to apply for a new career, what do you do?
I go forward, I study, I put my resume, I go for an interview, I do my best.
Exactly. So you use your faith. You say to yourself, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get a better job. So what I need to do, you have a plan and you start working this plan. So that helps you to acquire what you desire, because actually what you want. Because when we desire, it's not very powerful, because desire is something that, oh, I want, but it's okay. But when we say, I want, that means that you put efforts, you make efforts, you really go forward. So most of us here are immigrants, exception for Abdul. So we had so much faith that we would be able to get here, right? So we applied for all the papers, we made efforts, we went and filled out all those tons of papers and forms, and we did everything, we paid all the taxes, and we are here. So we had this faith. And this faith is kind of preparation, right, for us to develop the divine faith. Because now we are working in the horizontal level of our lives. So we are here, we are working hard, we have faith that we're going to get everything that we need to have a comfortable life, a better life for us and for our kids. And this is a preparation for us to develop a divine faith. And maybe in the next incarnation or in the other next incarnation, we'll be able to come back and have our mind focused on in the vertical part of our lives. We are here and we are kind of going through this transition already, because we are working in our human faith and also trying to strengthen our divine faith by being here, trying to learn more about Jesus' teachings, trying to learn more about our Spiritism. And then gradually, slowly, we are developing our divine faith to do great things, to develop the noble feelings. And maybe we can be like Mother Teresa next incarnation. Gandhi. I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to
I'm talking about me.
really reinforce your will. And mine too.
Still not there yet, right?
Yes. So, in this we can see that we have these immense faculties. They are in latent with us. They are there, dormant. And depends on our will, our action, to make it blossom or blossom, to make them germinate, and make them strength, and improve, evolve as immortal spirits. Let's keep going here with Peter and Jesus. Any questions so far?
I really like this differentiation here between human and divine faith, because, it's easy to sometimes just conclude that trust is enough, that just if you trust that there's something that exists, that is enough. But it's really, to your point, it's living it. It's really living it in your own life. And I once read just a great description about the difference between like faith and just trust, or like human faith and divine faith, which is, faith in that sense is really trust without any reservations anymore. The way they described it, they said, imagine these high wire artists that literally walk across skyscrapers, like the tallest buildings. And imagine you looking at this person from the ground, and they take out a wheelbarrow and they put the wheelbarrow on this wire, and then they're saying they're going to walk around it, and they ask you from the floor, they're like, do you believe this person will do it? And people on the floor, many people would say, they may say, yeah, I trust that he can do it. Like, well, if you trust him, will you get in the wheelbarrow while he takes you across? And they were saying that is the difference between trust and faith, because trusting someone from the security of the ground is one thing. Having faith is that trust without reservation. You believe so much you will literally get in the wheelbarrow and allow them to take you across, because that's how much belief you have in that, to that sense of like the divine, or Jesus taught faith is that level, that it is just a foregone conclusion that God is there and will look after you and will get you across that wire without anything happening to you. You just have to be willing to sit in that wheelbarrow. And so anyways, to your point, I think
wonderful analogy.
exception. Well, somebody else's. I can't take any credit for it.
But it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for bringing it up. I'm going to use maybe next, for my own knowledge, I'm going to try to remember of that.
Feel free.
And it's important, this is very important that you said, because I was forgetting to mention, that's your part. Like, it's always 50%, right?
Yes.
So, if we're there, if the person is there just waiting,
Yes.
it's not going to cross. But if he take action, God will take the same action.
Mm-hmm.
And with the only one will, things will happen. Of course, what we want needs to be aligned with God's will as well. Because sometimes we complain that we don't get things that we want. But let's take a look. Let's try to review that feeling or that thing that we really want, if it's aligned with God, if it's the best for us. Because sometimes we want so much something, and when we look behind and say, wow, thank God that I didn't get what I was wanted. God knows. Yeah. So it's the main point of faith. Even though we don't get what we want, keep the faith, because it was for the best most of the time. Okay, so then Jesus walks on the sea. So this text that we can find also in Matthew, I forgot to put here the reference, but I will describe Jesus walking on the sea after he fed all the 5,000 people with bread and fish. So he said to the disciples, go on the boat, I will go after you, I just need to dismiss the crowd. And when they went to the boat, the wind was so strong, and it started taking the boat away from the beach. But then Jesus, after he did with the crowd, he went for a prayer. After every night, he went to go by himself to meditate. So after that, he went to the sea. And then he started walking on the sea towards the disciples, to meet the disciples. But then the disciples saw him walk on the water, and they got scared. They start screaming, oh my gosh, what is that? It's a ghost. And then Jesus said, take courage, it's I, don't be afraid, Lord. And then Peter says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water. So what we can learn from this passage that apply to our lives? Let's start with take courage. So another, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about courage, right? Which means the action from the heart. When we really goes to our heart, deep inside, and we act with the virtues, with the essential sentiments. So act with your heart. It's me. So what he's saying here, it's me. Who is Jesus? Who do you think that is Jesus? That makes the disciples feel so confident. What we can see on the question 625, the Spiritist book. Somebody remember? Kardec will ask, who is the model and guide of humanity? And the spirits will say, look at Jesus. Jesus is the model and guide of humanity. He is the model of love that brings calm, that brings patience, that brings faith to our hearts. That's what the disciples were seeing. When he said, it's me, see, this all showed up for them. Like, he's our model and guide. He is the best, the pure spirit, the angel that came here to help us. That's what Jesus means. And then he said, don't be afraid, meaning, I'm here. I am here. I am the 50%. So, take your actions. Come to me. And then, what we can learn from this Peter's reply when he said, Lord, if it's you. What he demonstrates here? Doubt. He was not sure. He thought there was a ghost. If it's you, meaning, I don't know if it's you. So then he said, tell me. So he was asking again. The salvation comes up from outside. He didn't have the self-confidence. He was insecure. He was telling, Jesus, tell me, give me the order. The way that you ordered the waves and the wind to stop, give me the same order. And I can walk towards you. And then she said, come. And Peter walked towards Jesus. And while he was having this faithful in Jesus, when he was looking at Jesus' eyes and walking, he was good. He was walking on the water. But then he started looking at the wind. He started looking around. He again was looking outside of himself. He was looking all the storms outside. And then he starts sinking. Do we do that? Do we feel that, okay, now I'll go. Now I'll be patient. Customer can say what he wants to say, right? Hi. Okay, I'll remain calm. And then, sinking again. But then Jesus right away reached him and helped him and asked him, why did you doubt? You're not seeing me. You're not looking at me. I didn't tell you that I am the model and guide. I'm not the example of love and faith. I'm not living with you. Why did you doubt? But sometimes we forget all these studies, all this knowledge, all the teachings, because we are
mortal spirits,
imperfect, yet. We are apprentices. And this status, this state of apprentice is temporary. Our future is to be as Jesus is. So every virtue that we make effort to develop inside of us will be with us forever. But all these feelings of insecurity, hate, resentment, pride, selfishness, this will go away. Because we are not that. We stay like, we have a very good verb in Portuguese that helps us to understand this, right? It's not very clear in English, but in Portuguese we say, we estamos. Like we are temporarily, but we are all the virtues. Because they are inside of us as we saw in the text before, they are inside of us, in dormant state. But they are, we have it. We are created with that. We are sons and daughters of God. And then we are going to see another passage from Peter when he declares that Jesus is the Messiah. And we will see the same kind of duality. Like, sometimes he is very faithful, sometimes he is insecure. When Jesus asked to the disciples, who people say that the Son of Man is? And they said, they say that you are Jeremiah, they say that you are John of the Baptist. And so Jesus asked them, but you, who you think that I am? And they said, Peter says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And I want to use what is written in the Good News, this book, psychographed by Chico Xavier, because it's very kind the way that Jesus referred to Peter when he just said that. Jesus will say, blessed are you, Simon, for it is not the flesh that has revealed this truth to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Now you have surrendered your heart to God and have spoken with his voice. Blessed are you, for you are the beginning to build in the Spirit the foundation of the living faith. So here he demonstrated he was in connection with God. He was inspired. In that moment, he made that connection. So much true. So much that he could say that. And Jesus recognized that faith that he was developing inside of him. But soon after, Jesus started to explain how things will end up, that he is going to Jerusalem, and he could be in prison, he could be crucified and everything. And then Peter says to him, right after, was not one day after, next week, right after, far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you. Oh, come on, Jesus, no. Stop saying that. No, it's not going to happen. Right? And then Jesus said, go behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not the mindful things of God, but the things of man. Jesus was being cruel here, do you think? Jesus was being tough with Peter. What he's trying to teach here, not only to Peter, but mainly to ourselves too. Try to focus on and the whole thing. Like, we are living we are here together in a planet of trial and expiations. We are going to have conflicts. We are going to have challenges in life. But as we see here in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 2, when Kardec will tell us the point of view, if we go on the top of the mountain and see behind, as we are seeing our own lives down there, we are going to see much better. You're going to have a better understanding what happened in our lives when we were kids and how we were growing up, like how everything was like matching together. And we have this better understanding. And how will be our lives in the future if we make the efforts right now, right here. So that's what Jesus was trying to teach Peter here. This trying to not look what is going to happen in the circumstance right now, but mainly what is my mission with you? What is the reason of God? Connect your will to God's will, as I'm doing. Follow my steps. So that's what Jesus was saying. And then in the good news as well, we are going to see an extension of this, because then after one day, Peter was very sad, and he came to Jesus and he said, Jesus, why you were so tough with me? Why did you say that I was like Satan? Why you rebuked me? And then Jesus said, you still haven't learned all the extent of the need for surveillance. So, watch and pray. You were in connection with God in 1 minute, and then right after, you walked away from God. You disconnected. So that's the reason that you had space to bad influence. So we are mortal spirits, right? So we are here not only, this is not our first and only reincarnation. We had all others before. So that means that we came here to balance our debts and credits. So we are here to get better, but we had some problems that we had behind. And with those problems, maybe we had some friends that are not very interested in our success. Maybe they are just waiting to see when we demonstrate that we're not faithful enough, so they can say something to discourage us, to make us feel that we are not enough, right? So that's the reason that Jesus says to us, watch and pray. And also he says that in the Our Father prayer, right? See the temptations. Help us to get rid of our temptations. So that's what Jesus was saying. So here we can see Peter coming from one side to another side. And last, Peter denies during the Holy Supper when Jesus said that all of them will fall away when he was in prison. And then Peter says, even if all fall away on account of you, I will never will. And Jesus said, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And then Peter said, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. And all the other disciples said the same. Well, we know how this happened, what happened afterwards, right? It's interesting to see that Jesus had 12 apostles. One denied him, another one betrayed him, and the 10 other ones ran away from him when he was in prison. So they were special, or they were just as we are? How we would feel if we're there with them? Most probably the same. Most probably we are not going to be able to be with him at the end. But he knew that. Jesus knew that. And that was written in the scriptures before that would happen. And it's not because of that he wouldn't love them as much as he loved them. And he still loves us. And I love this sentence from Chico Xavier that he says, Jesus loved me the way that I am. The way that I am. Jesus loves us the way that we are. Doesn't matter what we did or what we didn't do. And Jesus still loved them. And after that, we can see how Peter was faithful and insecure. Because right after that, he denied Jesus. And let's talk about this now, the duality of Peter. And what is duality? It's a state that you are at the same time both things. Like he was insecure, but at the same time he had faith. And we are like that. Sometimes we are very strong and sometimes we are weak. And we are like in this, trying to get the balance all the time. And that's the purpose, right? That's what we are here. Because if you are in the spirit's realm, we would be good because we will be around those that we have affinity with. So we're not going to have all those changes, all those challenges, living with different people and learning from each of them. Some of them makes our lives very easy, some of them makes our lives very difficult. But we are here to learn, right? And then we can be stumbling block that Jesus said that to Peter when he was saying that, oh, stop saying that, you're not going to be in prison, no, this is not going to happen. And Jesus said, you are stumbling block, or pedra de tropeço, right? Because of his insecurity. But also Jesus said that Peter was the rock that builds, and over his faith he would build his church or his doctrine. And that's how we know Peter so far, and up to today, right? Because he changed it after that. After he denied Jesus 3 times, can you imagine how devastated he was when he realized that he had done what Jesus said that he would do? And how we feel when we commit some mistakes, with that we already have this knowledge, and sometimes we still commit the same mistakes. How do we feel? Shame, and sorry, and we want to get better, right? And Peter was sad. And after Jesus' resurrection, when Madalena got there and said, hey, Jesus is alive, I saw him, and Peter was, what? He showed himself to you? Like, I was the one that was with him all the time, and then he felt, oh, it's because I denied him 3 times. He doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't love me anymore. He was feeling all these bad feelings. And then, let me skip here because of the time. I speak too much, sorry guys. Oops. And then, Jesus reinstates Peter's faith. After the resurrection, Jesus showed up several times to the disciples, right? We know that. And before he come back to the Spirit's realm, he met with Peter and said, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And then Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you. And then after Jesus keep talking, and then Jesus come back to Peter saying, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? For the 2nd time. And Peter, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus started talking again, and then he came back to Peter and said, Simon, do you love me? And Peter, like we can see that in the good news, Peter started crying. Okay, what can I say? You know that I love you. And then Jesus said, feed my lambs. Or in Portuguese, apacente minhas ovelhas. So Jesus said that 3 times. He asked Peter 3 times, why do you think that he asked 3 times?
Peter had disowned him 3 times?
That's right. So Jesus gave him this opportunity to reinstate his faith. Same times that he denied Jesus, he had the opportunity to say, I love you, Master. And after that, we know that Pentecost event. Everyone knows about this? No? The Pentecost event was, I'm not sure if I pronunciate this correct.
Pentecost.
Pentecost event. So the Pentecost is the event where that it's a holiday that Jewish, they celebrate 50 days after the Easter. So this day, there was a mediunic event, phenomenon. So physical phenomena, like some flames showed up, opened the heads of each apostle. So they got this inspiration from the spirits, the benevolent spirits, and they start talking about Jesus with the people on the streets. They went outside. They were locked after Jesus passed away because they were afraid. And then in this day, they received this inspiration. They felt strong. They renovated their faith, and they went outside and they started talking about Jesus on the streets. Not afraid anymore. They starting doing their spreading the good news. And interesting, by that time, many people from all over the other countries around Jerusalem used to come to celebrate the Passover, the Easter, and they didn't speak the language of the Jewish speak. And the Jesus' apostles, they spoke the language of the Jewish. So, and other people didn't, but they were able to understand in their own language what the apostles were saying. So if I was here speaking in Portuguese, and Attila would be able to understand in English, much perfect English actually. Right. So that's what happened with them. So after that, Peter renovated himself so much so that we will see in the Acts that Peter and John were, after that passed on, they went to the temple and they saw this paralyzed man on the door of the temple asking for donations. And then Peter looked at him and felt so much compassion and love. And he said, look at me. And then the paralyzed man look at Peter, and Peter says, silver and gold I don't have, but what I have I give to you. Stand up and walk. And then he started walking. So then Peter transformed his insecurity and self-confidence in the solid faith, and he became the rock that Jesus said that he would build over him, his church. So what we can do to build up our self-confidence, what we can do to build up our faith in God, in life, that will bring only things that it's important for us to learn, for us to strengthen our faith, and what we can do to strengthen our confidence in ourselves, because we have all the seeds inside of us. What we can do from now on to strengthen, to make this happen. So that's how I would like to finish our conversation today, and I open if you guys want to say anything or any questions. No? Good. Hopefully you have learned a little bit more about Peter's life, as I did. And I felt so much happy to learn a little bit more about his life and his process of learning. That is so much dear to my heart, because that's my biggest goal in my life, is to get this self-confidence, to look at me and see me as Jesus sees me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Master Jesus, we raised our thoughts once again to thank you for this opportunity of learning, this opportunity to reflect upon your teachings, to enlighten our hearts, to build our faith, to believe that our lives are here for a great purpose, to grow the seeds of love that each of us have inside of us, to take care of them, to practice every single day the virtues that will make us better people, better person, for ourselves and for everyone that lives with us, that is part of our lives. And so, if each of us make the effort to build up our faith, our love, inside of us. If each of us decides to enlight our hearts with this little light, we are able to enlight this planet, this holy planet, and make everyone's lives better. Help us, Master, with our imperfections and with our will, to take the actions that we are supposed to do. Help us, Master, with the courage of the faith, to become better Christians. That Jesus bless this Sunday in the life of everyone here. Go in peace. So be it.